and welcome to episode 2 of the Woolly Vet Knitting Podcast. If this is our first time meeting, hi, welcome. My name is Kate. I am a knitter, spinner, and a fourth-year veterinary student. I like to document my journey with all of the above here on YouTube, and I would love for you to join me. If you don't mind liking and subscribing so you don't miss any future videos, that would be amazing. Let's get started. So first, thank you for joining me on a very moody, very on-brand Scottish Sunday morning. It is downpouring, and the lighting I don't expect will get much better. I am about to spend the next 14 hours working on my dissertation. That's due on Thursday. A friend of mine is heading over in a little bit, so I thought I would have a cup of coffee and tell you a little bit about what I'm knitting on in between massive study sessions. And I thought I would also give a little acquisition section, a little update on the spinning, and some plans. I know the last episode was very long, a bit chaotic. I was definitely very excited to get everything out there day one, but today I think will be a little bit shorter, a little bit sweeter, and a little bit more concise. So grab something cozy, some coffee, some tea, get in your comfiest clothes. I am not wearing anything that I knitted. This is actually from Primark, but it's just my coziest jumper with a pair of sweatpants because this is my study outfit. So get into something cozy. Let's get started. All right. So first I would like to share my first finished object. Technically, it was finished in 2024, but I wove in all the ends and blocked it in 2025. So I think for the purpose of this video and just life, this will be a 2025 finished object in January. So this is sweater number 26 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. It is my first ever garment, and she definitely looks like somebody's first ever garment, I think. I wore this in my last podcast. It definitely is full of really great positive things and lessons that I've learned. It's lovely and soft, but I definitely learned a lot and made some pretty obvious, I think as knitters, we always think our mistakes are so obvious, but maybe they're not so obvious to you, but they're very obvious to me, mistakes. And I was talking a bit in my last podcast about perfectionism, and I'm trying to move away from that. And this sweater is an exercise in just letting things go. So overall, I am happy. I can wear it. It is lovely and soft. But some things to improve on. There's some holes in the neckline and where I picked up on the saddle shoulder sides, which was a challenge. And I don't know why my first ever sweater is a saddle shoulder construction. I don't know why I did that to myself. I think I'm a glutton for punishment. But that also being said, I think when you see something that inspires you, you should just go for it. I watched a lot of videos and spent a lot of time just trying to learn and create this as the designer intended. I made a lot of mistakes. It's definitely not perfect, but that's okay. It is lovely and soft next to skin. I wore this to lecture the other day and got a couple of compliments, which was really nice. I think because some people in my program know that I'm a knitter, it was quite obviously handmade. So I think they were just being nice, which is so lovely of them. But it is very, very oversized. I did make some edits to the sleeves. I knitted a size medium in this, and here you can kind of see, you can see here, I did some pretty dramatic decreasing at the bottom of this sleeve. I actually am really happy that I did that. The first time I knitted the sleeves as intended, they were about 2 inches past my wrists. And as much as I love an oversized sweater, as much as I love the sleeves to be just kind of here, they were like there. So it didn't look very good. And so I had to rip it all back. Well, not all. I had to rip it back to um, a pretty reasonable point to start my decreases again at a more rapid pace. So I put all my edits on my Ravelry for that if that's interesting to you. Yeah, so I knitted this sweater in Gepard Garn Pure Lana, which is a 50% wool, 50% alpaca yarn. It is lovely and squishy. And I will say it becomes so much softer after blocking. I mean, I was just so beside myself how lovely it blocked out. This is in the colorway 101, which I think is just the raw or color. I forget what they called it online, but it's on my Ravelry. And then I held it with a Knitting for Olive uh, soft silk mohair, of course, and this is in the color Ballerina. So yeah, I did a little experiment. If you noticed, obviously these are not the same color, and they don't even have the same undertones really. I kind of wanted it to have a baby pink halo, but I didn't really account for the fact that the halo would be kind of not orange, like a peach color with the two held together. I did swatch, but I did the saddle shoulder as a swatch, and I had ordered all the yarn already, and I just thought, I'm just gonna go for it. And I did. I did have a little bit of trouble with this pattern though. Once I was doing, oh, what part was it? It was a part, I think it was the part where I had connected the saddle shoulders and I was knitting around and I was increasing for the sleeves. That's exactly what it was. And then I think I was just, anyway, there was a part in the pattern where it says M1. And instead of it saying slip M1 for slipping a marker, it just said M1 and then the next line would say slip M1. I was silly and got confused. And I don't think, looking back, my camera did something funny just then. So hopefully that won't happen again. So in the pattern, there was this line that had said M1, and then the next line was slip M1. And for whatever reason, in my brain, I thought make one and then slip the stitch that you made. But as the pattern went on, it wasn't having you do like adding like M1, you know. So I had to rip back an entire day's worth of work because I just had this it wasn't even a shape. I don't know why I didn't notice it sooner. I was just sitting in front of the fire, just mindlessly knitting. And I was like, oh, it's just a repeat for however many times. So I'm just going to do that. And I remember thinking to myself, this just doesn't seem right. It doesn't make sense for where I am on the sweater for this to be the case. And I knitted for probably like 4 or 5 hours just on a Saturday after a long day's work. And yeah, so I had to rip all of that back. And that was a lesson. But I'm very happy that it's done. And it is my first ever garment that I can wear. And it just is such a good feeling. Next, I knitted a pair of penny gloves. I'll put a picture of it just over here. And the penny gloves I knitted for my friend Brooke. We met in vet school and she's lovely. So I thought I would make her something handmade just to show her that I love her. And yeah, so she really likes them, and which is great. But I did knit them in the tin peer gynt and then some soft silk mohair. On my Ravelry, I have all the colors. I think after they blocked, they were soft enough to be worn next to skin. I had only worn them for just to try them on and make sure that they stretched nicely and she could get her thumb through the thumb holes and everything. The tension was even and everything. So I didn't feel like it was itchy, scratchy. I know sometimes mohair can be, but to be honest, even with my sweater, I don't really have an issue with the mohair. I don't know if you can hear Whiskey. She's having a bad dream. Okay. Um, so she does have quite sensitive skin. So it was something I had the yarn and scrap yarn, and so I just thought the color is perfect. It's a very brooky color, as I would say. So I thought she would really enjoy that. So I did those for her, and we ended up actually going to Amsterdam for the weekend, last weekend, to celebrate her birthday, and we had such a good time. It was so lovely. I'll insert some B-roll here of the city, and I was just so excited. I have always wanted to go to Amsterdam, and I've had layovers to get back to the US in the airport, but I've never actually left the airport. But sometimes if I'm lucky and I'm flying at the right time of year, you can see all of the tulip farms everywhere, and oh, stunning. Unfortunately, since it's February, the tulips weren't in full swing, uh, but it was just a lovely trip. And while I was there, of course, I went to a yarn shop. The yarn shop was called Stephen and Penelope, and I got some yarn and I got some acquisitions. So I can show you that just now. So this is the yarn all caked up. I actually Here are the details. It's called Olivia and Oliver Fibers. It's hand dyed in the Netherlands, which was important to me since it's a souvenir yarn. It is Olivia Blueface Leicester, and it's 100% SW Blueface Leicester. The colorway is called Monument Valley, and it's a 4-ply, 400 meters per 100 grams. I think this is actually 100 grams, and it feels like a lot of yarn, 400 meters. Um, it is beautiful. I mean, the skein, if I have a picture, I'll insert it here. I don't remember if I took a picture of just the skein. The skein was stunning. And then I asked them if they could cake it up in the shop, and they did, which was so nice because I was able to just leave with a cake and I had my needles and I was just ready to go. So this, I was, so because I made Brooke some gloves that she was able to wear on a very, very chilly February walkabout in Amsterdam, I was so jealous. So I wanted to cast on my own mittens. But to be honest, I think this yarn is just a little bit too thin. But this is glove number one. And I think it knits up really cool. The thumb hole is a little tight, but that's fine. But yeah, so it is lovely. But I don't think they'll be very warm. And it doesn't feel like the softest yarn in the world. I think uh, because it's a blue face Leicester, I think sometimes after it washes, it does become a little bit fluffier. But it is also hand dyed, and sometimes I know dye can change the texture as well. And after, so I'm hoping after a little wash and block, it's a little bit softer. And then I just have the so current work in progress here. But this is just the cuff starting point of the penny glove. I have now memorized this pattern. It If you don't have the penny glove pattern in your possession, I know Petite Knit is one of the most well-known knitting designers. Um, but yeah, I think that the penny gloves are super quick, easy, very easy gift knit, very satisfying. You get that rush of instant gratification uh, so quickly with them. So that's been really nice because if you can't tell, am absolutely beat. Um, this is the last week of fourth year university or fourth year of school for me. And it just feels like there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but it just is Yeah. So some instant gratification penny gloves, highly recommend. So that brings me to my next work in progress that has consumed me otherwise, and that is the Chantal sweater. So this is her. I am currently working on the neckline, which is a new skill. I so far I'm really loving how this is turning out. I think that the double knitting where you're going to fold the neckline down is genius. Again, I am a new garment knitter, so I'm sure that that is not groundbreaking to some of you, but to me it is, and I love it, and I do like it a lot more than the color I knit for um, sweater number 26. So I just think it's going to have such a nice finish. I won't have to sew the neckline down like sweater number 26, so that will be very nice. And yeah, I definitely did not pick up the exact number of stitches for the neckline. Um, I think I'm 4 stitches less, which I had done it 3 times, and going around and around and picking up stitches and being 4 short the third time around, I just thought, what difference is it going to make, really? I think it might pucker because I think I have just missed the 4 stitches here, and I think it might pucker just where my stitch marker is. So you can see. Oh, it's up here. So my stitch marker is here. So this is the middle of the work. And it might pucker just a wee bit. Okay, the lighting is just so poor. But yeah, it might. It might. I also have had a really interesting experience with this sweater. It is stunning. Um, I mean, this, the front of this is gorgeous. And I'm so excited for it to be a finished object. I am just blasting through it. I'm blasting through it as fast as I can within reason, just to get this done because I just want to see it on. And it's so lovely and soft. I am knitting it in Alpaca Silk by Sandnes Garn in the colorway. Well, it doesn't say color. I should know this about Sandnes Garn, but the colorway number is 4043. It is so lovely and soft, and especially after knitting with the Blue Face Leicester 4-ply, that it's a bit rough on my hands, but very fast to knit with, but rough on my hand. This just feels like the most luxurious thing ever. It is 70% baby alpaca, 30% mulberry silk. So it is just lovely, lovely and squishy and soft. And it was actually on sale on knit.co.uk, which is where I buy most of my kind of specialty yarns. I find that their shipping is the fastest for me to Glasgow. And then I also have this Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the color plum clay. And online, I thought these colors were quite similar, like this would be like a darker version of this, but I think this is a bit more of a dustier purple than brown, which to be fair, plum clay, it does describe it in the name quite well. But I was hoping for it to be a little more brown, but I think they go together pretty well. And it seems to be a bit of a theme now with me kind of experimenting with holding a mohair with a yarn and kind of altering the color a little bit. I would like to give it a go of just solid colors without changing the undertones or the way that the light would pick up the color of the garment. But I think that overall, the color of this is really nice. And I'm going to hold this up and I want to point out a pretty obvious, I think obvious thing here. Do you notice the difference between these two panels? I am very unsure how. I'm hoping that that will block out. But interestingly, you have to knit your slip stitches in like 3 different ways. One of them is slipping on the knit, one of them is slipping with the purl, and sometimes you're doing short rows and you're doing and this is the actually this is the back. So this is the side with the short rows. So you've got, these are my purl stitches that are slipped, and these are my knit stitches that are slipped. And you can pretty obviously see the difference, I think, between the two. And then when I was doing the saddle shoulder construction, you're not working in the round, obviously, so you're doing that flat. And so I have slip knit stitches, and then I have to purl it on the other side. So I think that the texture is not consistent. And I ripped this certain panels of this back um, time and time and time again. And when I started the back, I really thought I was going crazy, and I didn't know if what I was doing wrong. Because later on, once you're really knitting in the round, it looks like there's almost like a jog or a line where you can see the difference in how I'm knitting. Like this is the front of the garment, and I think you can see you've got these very pronounced slip stitches, and then it goes down into the body with just regular, the slip stitch texture I think you're supposed to have based off of the pictures, um, which kind of resulted in me almost like experimenting in the work. So there are a couple areas that I'm not very happy with because my gauge is a little bit looser, my gauge is a little bit tighter. I'm hoping that will block out for the most part. There are a couple spots I know won't be perfect, and that's okay. But that's okay. See, trying to convince myself that it's fine. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure how people are overcoming that. So if you have any recommendations, or if you've knitted the Chantal, I know there's a couple of knit alongs going on that I've just noticed recently, which is funny because I thought it was an original thought, and I think we all have hive minds sometimes. Um, yeah, I would like to hear some advice if you have any for me on how to overcome the change in gauge and or the change in texture for that. Okay, last but not least, in the slightest, is I have a couple of acquisitions to show you. So I already showed you my Amsterdam yarn, which is the only yarn I have purchased so far this year, besides the yarn for the Chantal sweater. Even though I haven't bought yarn, I have bought fiber, and I talk quite a lot about the fiber I have in my collection in my last podcast. So if you wanted to check that out, please do. It is a very different vibe because I am very excited and I'm probably talking 1,000 miles an hour in my last video. So if you gave it a watch before this, thank you so much for coming back. Um, I'm very excited to get used to filming myself and making it a little bit more natural feeling. Anyway, so some acquisitions is I have this lovely bag from Stephen and Penelope, and I got this at the yarn shop, and I just think it's so fun. Bright and colorful. Well, not colorful, but the colors are really nice. And I bought it as my project bag when I was in Amsterdam, just to bring my knitting along with me to cafes and things. And I just think it's really nice looking. It's really good quality as well. It's a lovely yarn shop. If you find yourself in Amsterdam, definitely check it out. It does have a price point for sure. I was a little bit surprised actually because if it wasn't for the yarn being souvenir purposes, I don't think I would have purchased any. But they do have an incredible selection of yarn. I was really excited to see their collection of punk rock unicorn. I have never seen that yarn in person before, and it is stunning, stunning. Laura Penrose actually was talking about it, I think, over her Christmas vlogs, um, I believe. And I was really surprised because I've also been inspired by, I'll put some I'll put some pictures here of some of my inspiration lately, and we're coming out of the winter season. And I know I shouldn't take on a big, heavy colorwork sweater project, but I really just might. I'm working on, or I have in my paused projects, my Ovis sweater, which I think does deserve some attention this year because I think once it's done, it will look really nice. Um, but the temptation to cast on a big, chunky, cozy colorwork project is definitely there. Yeah, that was a little side tangent. But my next acquisition is another bag from Amsterdam. I mean, I was a classic tourist, but I had to get my tulips somehow, even though there really weren't any in bloom. I had to get my tulip fix. So another bag. And then I have a very special acquisition. This is a lovely, lovely leather bag for all of my knitting tools, knitting things that my friend Sandra got me. And I love it. She was worried it wasn't going to fit my knitting needles, but to be honest, I don't think I have cases for my needles, but I didn't have anything to put my stitch markers and my scissors and my measuring tapes into. So I told her, this is actually so perfect. So yeah, this is the lovely leather bag that she gave me. It has my name engraved on it, or yeah, engraved or pressed onto the leather. And I just think it's so sophisticated and lovely, and I just am so thankful. So this was a very lovely Christmas gift I got from her. But of course, because we're students and busy, we just exchanged gifts recently. And I have one more acquisition to show you. This this is my favorite TK Maxx find. I definitely love to find nice organization or storage solutions to put around my house. And so storage is a bit limited. Um, and I like to just make it so I can display things as much as I can in a way that is satisfying and it doesn't look cluttered, especially with fiber. And also keeping my fiber nice. I need to put some sachets of lavender in here, which is also my favorite smell of all time. I dried so much lavender over the summer from my partner's dad's garden, and I gave it all away, or I used it in soaps, and I also make soap. And yeah, I didn't have any left over to make my sachets, which was a bit silly of me. So I can do one of two things. I can either order some of the dried herb, or I can just wait. But I don't think it would be wise to wait. But this is my little bucket of colors. um, yeah, there's a lot going on in here. I bought the Northern Lights set from World of Wool, and it came with all sorts of lovely, 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 lovely colors. I haven't worked with carded blended fiber before. I haven't spun it up before. Most of my spins have been either fractal or just uh, like natural fiber. So I thought this could be quite fun. And I got the Northern Lights pack, and then I got the English Garden pack that they had pre-made. And that was before I learned about the design your own mix bag, which I showed in my last video. So please check that out if you're interested. I talk about my Parker's Ridge and Blueberry Cake colorways. that I designed and will be doing a spin to knit section on. And then I also got yarn or fiber to make my new Norma sweater, which will be another spin to knit that I'm hoping to start actually either this evening if the light holds a little bit and I can do a solid 14 hours of dissertation work and still have the will to go on. um, so I have these lovely colors in here that don't have a purpose yet other than just to bring me joy when I look at them. Um, so I might do a fun segment another time where maybe we could pick some colors together and design a nice spin and we can choose a knit to make as well. And I think that would be a really fun little segment of the channel. So that may be coming soon, but not right now because we have the spin to knit starting up this week. I think I'm going to be doing the Parker's Ridge spin and starting the new Norma spin. And I might hold off on Blueberry Cake until after Parker's Ridge. To be fair, though, the Parker's Ridge fractal spin shouldn't take me too long. I'm hoping to do it in a day. So I'm hoping to do it in one sitting, which usually is about 4 to 5 hours. So one sitting meaning one day, broken up into sections during the day where I can take a little break from whatever it is that I am studying on that day. Um, the problem is when I start spinning, I want to just stay in my spot and spin for the whole day. It's so addicting. The sound of the spinning wheel, I will do B-roll of that when I do my spin to knit. It's just so comforting. It's like listening to a rocking chair in the coziest room on the coziest day. It just brings me so much joy and relaxation. So I will definitely be sharing that very, very soon. So definitely stay tuned for that. So I think that that concludes today's video. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. I know it's a bit of a vibe change between episode 1 and episode 2. I am just beat. A little veterinary school life update. I am in my last week of university ever. Ever. My last week of lectures. And it's very exciting and simultaneously very overwhelming. I have been working on portfolio, which is our dissertation for veterinary school, and it is a lot of writing, a lot of research, and a lot of evidence based material. So I've been compiling a lot, just staring at a computer screen for many, many hours a day. And though it's not the most difficult thing in the world, it's just extremely time consuming. So that is why maybe there is a bit of a change in the energy between episode 1 and episode 2. um, But yeah, if you enjoyed today's content, please consider liking and subscribing. And I would love to see you guys on my next video. If you would like to check out episode 1, please do. I talk about all of the things I casted on, finished, and was working on last year in 2024. So it's very complete. And I also talk about my spinning journey because I just started to spin last year and I think I made tremendous progress. I went from drop spindle to spinning wheel, and there's just a lot of that journey talked about on that episode as well. And I'll show you a little sneak peek of all of my colorways as well. So if you have an hour to kill or you want to work on a project, definitely check out that video. I would, yeah. So thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you made some progress on whatever you have been working on, and I hope that I can see you guys in my next episode. Thank you so much. Bye.